She only treats me as a friend when it's convenient for her, and I'm tired of it.
Tired of it, Grandpa.
Okay, so I'm writing this on a throwaway account and also just hopeful to gain some perspective. This situation has been a few years in the making, so please bear with me. Most of the people I have talked to about this in my life love me. In return, I feel immediately go to the "she wasn't a real friend anyways" response. Now, I'm just so confused by the whole situation and I feel I could use some clarity. Am I a broken record? Was she a friend to begin with? Did we both just move different ways? Was I the a-hole? I have no idea anymore. Give us some ideas here. By the way, this comes from The Office Fan 1233 on the r/OK Storytime subreddit. Okay, so Brenda and I, 25 female, had been friends for years. It was a slow burn friendship. We worked together and over the years ended up becoming really close. Once the pandemic hit, we would FaceTime almost daily. I would have considered her easily my best friend, and I thought she would have considered me the same. I truly loved our friendship and Brenda as a person. I didn't really have many friends growing up, so she felt like one of my first and only true friends that I felt comfortable around. She was fun and easygoing and brought out those sides of me too also. It's worth noting that Brenda and I worked together, but only for about 2 months out of the year. The rest of the time we lived about an hour and a half away from each other. Our friendship was over 7-ish years, albeit some of that time in the beginning we weren't close as we eventually grew to be. In that time, I always, and I do mean always visited her. I would get a hotel room in the area we would hang out, or I would just drive to her area. There was one time during the pandemic we met halfway, but that was it. I would invite her over, but nothing ever came of it. I also would always be the driver. Now, I know she didn't love driving, but had somewhat driver's anxiety, which I totally understand, so most of the time this didn't bother me. I enjoy driving. She didn't so much. I didn't read that much into it. Those around me, however, did take notice that I would hear often that perhaps she was using me. But with how much we talked and how the genuine friendship felt, I couldn't imagine this being the case, so I just shrugged it off. It's also worth noting during the months that Brenda and I were in the same town for work, we always tried to make time to get dinner and hang out. Since this was far more convenient than the usual hour-and-a-half commute, we tried to take advantage of the only 5 minutes from each other while we could. Brenda eventually met her now partner, Jason. When they first connected, it was around those few months I'm in town. At first, I didn't know anything about Jason, so I was constantly trying to hang out with Brenda. This was also the first year that we were not working together, but we were still only 5 minutes away from each other in the same town. We have previously talked about getting together like usual during these months, so every week without fail, I would reach out. Every week, she had a reason she couldn't. I see you.
I'm prioritizing.
Eventually, I found out that Jason came into the picture around then. I'm still not sure if she was genuinely busy or if she just wanted her time with her new partner, which I totally understand, but I didn't even know there was a new partner at the time. The whole situation left me honestly feeling a bit hurt. She also forgot my birthday around the same time. Not the birthday.
Not the birthday.
And proceeded to 3 years in a row, which usually wouldn't be an issue, but compiled with everything just highlighting to our perhaps unequal friendship.
Girl, you have higher standards. She forgot your birthday 3 years in a row? Put that in the calendar.
Put it in the calendar.
Put it in the calendar.
Anyway, she was reaching out less, and I just felt confused by it all. During this time, I reached out quite often. That's a common theme of our friendship. If I didn't hear from her for a while, I would check in because we both separately had dealt with mental struggles, and I always wanted to make sure the ones I love are okay.
Yeah, nice.
Eventually, I finally reached out again, this time addressing my feelings head on. Okay, we're getting somewhere here.
Okay.
At this point, I personally felt like our friendship was totally slipping away. Her replies were short and lacked any genuine conversation. We barely talked on the phone or hung out in person, and it seemed so obviously different to me. She somewhat freaked out and seemed surprised by my feelings, and we talked later through. She said if she didn't reply to just spam her to not feel weird about that. I shared that feeling like I'm begging for someone's attention or friendship strikes somewhat of a nerve for me. I said I would try to be less sensitive, and she said she would try to take my feelings into account also. Move forward another year-ish, and things had gotten a lot better. She moved to a much further state, which sucked, but we talked fairly often on her way home from work. I went and visited them, her and Jason, when they first moved. And it's funny that she moved across the country and she's like, I'll talk again. I guess I'll see her now.
I guess I'll see her more now.
They were still staying with Brenda's mom, so I rented an Airbnb so I didn't impose. I made sure to get one big enough for all of us so that Jason could join and so I could get to know Jason a bit more. From the interactions we had, he seems like an awesome guy, and I was so happy for her. I really thought things were up again and hoped she saw the effort I was trying to put into not letting the distance impact our friendship too much. Then, almost 2 years ago, I met Dean, my now husband. You know any Deans?
No.
I do.
Dean.
After years of being lonely and Brenda and I sharing each other's lonely single chronicles with each other, I finally met the one. Dean and I had an instant connection, and he is truly the most incredible person and blessing to my life. During this time, there were obviously so many exciting events that I was thrilled to share with Brenda. It seemed, though, that as soon as it couldn't be exact on her terms and communication completely reverted. So if it's not on her terms, she can't do it.
Yeah. It just seems like you need to maybe move on from this friendship. She's not putting in a lot of effort, and that's not fair.
Here we go. For instance, if I would miss her call on her drive home from work, but then she see the notification and ask if we could chat for a few minutes, afterwards she would say she was home already. I do get being tired after a long day, but I'm trying my best to get a full picture. Eventually, I wouldn't be able to get her on a call at all. For months, I'd reach out and she would reply, but not really participate in any conversation. I tried asking if we could call or FaceTime sometime this week, and it would never happen. Eventually, it got to the point where she really knew nothing about my life. I had moved in with Dean and so badly wanted to talk to my best friend, and I still couldn't get her on the phone.
Yeah, this is just not a person who's like putting you as a priority at all.
I also felt a bit embarrassed that the person I told Dean was my best friend at the beginning of our friendship seemingly couldn't give me even a few minutes of her time beyond a few empty generic text messages. I checked in on her many times trying to figure out what was going on. Finally, I snapped and sent her a message saying, essentially, I feel as though this friendship has been uneven for quite some time, and until she's willing to talk about it, hopefully pursue a more equal dynamic, I didn't think we could be friends anymore. I said if she couldn't reply to this, I understood, and she didn't.
That's crazy though, to have like a call out from like a person that you're supposedly friends with and then just not reply to it.
That would suck.
Wow.
I was like, Angie, Sophia's my best friend.
Yeah.
And you were never around.
Yeah, I just like was, and you like texted me and you were like, hey, let's hang out. And I was just
like, what was the last thing I texted you? I know you didn't reply.
What?
I said, do you have any lime juice? She says, no, Alas. I said, F. She said, sorry. I said, you should be.
okay, but that was the end of the. Did I really have to respond to you should be?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Should have been like, I'm
I have to end
some.
every conversation. I have to have the final word.
Yeah.
Okay. I know now.
Even though I initiated this, all I wanted was for her to see how much her lack of engagement in our friendship hurt me. A few months later, I got engaged and I was flooded with joy, but also emotion because the one friend I wanted to tell wasn't in my life anymore.
That sucks.
So I reached out. I don't like being a prideful person or let pride take away from potential healing, so I somewhat ate crap. I admitted any fault I thought I had in the situation and apologized. I said I should have tried to talk to her about it with her more and shouldn't have been so hasty. I said I miss her and I feel like we have a once-in-a-lifetime friendship that isn't perfect, but I should have worked on it more. I didn't say that I disagreed with what I said because truthfully, I didn't, but admittedly, I could have gone about things in a better, more productive way. Her response was basically that she just wants to forget it happened and move on.
What? She just wants to gloss over it?
This never happened. Yeah, we can just forget about it, actually.
She's like, whatever, it's fine.
I'm willing to move on if you are.
It seems like on OP's friend's side, she's just like, this is a casual friendship, and we don't have to actually bring up any big issues. And OP's like, no, this is a really important friendship to me, and I want to like actively address my concerns.
Yeah. So, although I would have loved to talk about it, I did what she said. I just went back to talking like usual. We sent messages back and forth for a few days and then silence because she probably told me to spam her and I don't feel weird about it if she doesn't answer right away. I did that exactly. If I saw a post that reminded me of her, I sent it to her or I'd check in to see how things were that day. As someone with pretty high anxiety, I was truly trying my absolute best to take what she said as truth and not to read into things. Eventually, a week turned to a month, and it was just me trying trying to have a one-sided conversation. I felt like I looked crazy, lol. Finally, I was about to send invitations to my wedding. I tried reaching out to make sure the address I had was still the current one, and that was the final straw. I messaged her and just said essentially I was going to try to take no answer as the answer, and that I wish this could all have been different, but she wouldn't hear from me again. I never heard from her.
So he's like, if you don't respond, that is the answer. And that's what happened.
And you can happen to join us live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST. Just tap our profile. We go live on
TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Just tap our profile.
My brain is melting. I'm just going to finish this.
Finish it.
There are no plot lines. There are no plot lines. Now, 2 weeks after the wedding, I sent one final message that I absolutely probably shouldn't have sent. Just saying how I would love to talk it out if one day she wants to. And I truly hope to hear from her and wish her and Jason nothing but the best. I guess my question to all of you is, what do you think this situation was? I almost would rather her have told me off than ghosting me after years of friendship. I feel like I had no resolution, and honestly, that's a really hard feeling for me. I'm not great at letting things go. I know this, and I'm actively trying to improve myself in that way. I just genuinely do feel, though, as I was a good friend for Brenda, and I don't know, just can't wrap my head around this. The only thing I could see creating this outcome is if our friendship just truly didn't mean that much to her. But it feels so wild. I can't imagine all our fond memories being so one-sided. I also feel like a total broken record that I am so still torn up about it. I also did find out that another very long-term friend of hers, even longer than me, had a similar experience, though they later began talking again. I just would love some outside thoughts. Clearly, I need to move on. I know that. But it would be nice to hear from someone other than my mother or husband. Ha ha ha. If you made it this far, truly thank you for all your listening, and I hope you have an amazing day. Sending good energy everyone's way. Thank you. I needed that. I would have been mad if you didn't say that again.
Yeah.
Dude, get out. Get out. This is just one-sided.
Yeah. Like why keep pursuing someone who doesn't care about you?
Yeah, and like you sent her a wedding invitation to the biggest day of your day, of all days, in the days that could have been days.
Yeah.
You just...
No, Ming Ming says OP sounds like an ex who got ghosted. Yeah, like you keep reaching out, expecting change and stuff, and they don't care enough to respond.
Agreed. I'm getting... do I have to do a TLDR of this one?
I don't know how you would.
I'm good at TLDRs, actually.
Okay.